Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog Podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we're discussing Citizen Kane, the 1941 American drama film by Orson Welles. Produced, co-screenwriter, director, and star. Like, holy hell, what didn't this guy do? And I believe he did all of this before 25. I believe he was 24 when he was in this. The picture was Welles' first feature film, considered by many critics, filmmakers, and fans to be the greatest film ever made. Citizen Kane was voted in 5 consecutive British Film Institute Sight and Sound polls and critics, and it topped the AFI's 100 Years 100 list in 1998, as well as 2007 update, nominated for Academy Awards in 9 categories. It won an Academy Award for Best Writing, which was original screenplay by Herman J. Mankiewicz and Welles. Citizen Kane is particularly praised for Greg Toland's cinematography, Robert Wise's editing, and Bernard Herrmann's music, and its narrative structure, for all which have been considered innovative and precedent-setting. The quasi-biographical film examines the life and legacy of Charles Foster Kane, played by Orson Welles, a composite character based upon American media barons William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, Chicago tycoons Samuel Insull and Harold McCormick, as well as aspects of the screenwriter's own lives. Upon its release, Hearst prohibited mention of the film in any of his newspapers. So, I wanted to go back and check one of the greatest films of all time. This is the second time I've watched Citizen Kane. Blown away both times for numerous different reasons. I have some very detailed notes that I have taken on this particular movie, and I've quite honestly just been blown away. Even, like I said, on the second round watching it, I was just like, how was this even, like, conceived of, in 41? Like, it's crazy to even think that this was able to be produced at this scale back in the day. So let's talk a little bit about Welles, Orson Welles. I actually didn't know too much about this guy. So after the Broadway success of Welles' Mercury Theater and the controversial 1938 radio broadcast The War of the Worlds, the Mercury Theater on the air, Welles was courted by Hollywood. He signed a contract with RKO Pictures in 1939. Although it was unusual for an untried director he was given the freedom to develop his own story, to use his own cast and crew, and to have final cut privilege. Following 2 abortive attempts to get the project off the ground, he wrote the screenplay for Citizen Kane, collaborating on the effort with Herman J. Mankiewicz, which is actually why I wanted to watch this movie again. I've seen Citizen Kane, like I said, twice. I wanted to rewatch this so I could prepare for the Mankiewicz movie, which is directed by, what's his face? By David Fincher. Fight Club and Social Network, Gone Girl, you know him from all that. He had just created a kind of biographical drama film about Herman J. Mankiewicz, and I wanted to go back and check that out as well. I heard there's a lot of homages and stuff like that to Citizen Kane. Not that, like, I feel like half of Hollywood is just an homage to, like, Citizen Kane and some of these older movies that have really set their put their foot down in the style of the stories that they're telling. So, principal photography took place in 1940, and the film received its American release in 1941. While a critical success, Citizen Kane failed to recoup its costs at the box office. The film faded from view after its release, but was subsequently returned to the public's attention when it was praised by such French critics as Andre Bazin and given an American revival in 1956. The film was released on Blu-ray in September 3rd, 2011 for the 70th anniversary edition. Citizen Kane was selected by the Library of Congress as an inductee of 1989's inaugural group of 25 films for preservation in the United States National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And so yeah, this has got some really interesting background, back knowledge, all just backstory, and that's why I'm kind of doing like a somewhat of a deep dive. I don't want to go too deep. I'm not nerding out and everything. I'm just trying to figure out who's what were the cooks behind the kitchen of this amazing meal that is Citizen Kane. I'm looking at the cinematography, Greg Toland. I'm really not familiar with Greg Toland as a cinematographer, but I love the cinematography in this. He worked on Best Years of Our Lives, John Ford's Grapes of Wrath, The Long Voyage Home. I don't know too many of these. These are all movies that are like in the 40s and stuff like that. Let me see what else we got. Like the music, not too familiar with Bernard Herrmann to my knowledge. He worked with Alfred Hitchcock on Psycho, North by Northwest, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Vertigo. So this guy kind of has more of horror kind of dramatic sounds. Okay, so The Day the Earth Stood Still, Cape Fear, Fahrenheit 451, Taxi Driver. Oh wow, this guy worked on Taxi Driver. I didn't realize it. I guess that kind of makes sense the more I think about it. But yeah, it's got an interesting sound, and especially the fact that they're using a guy that has all these. He's most well known for what's it called? What is he most well known? He's best well known for like horror, like dramatic horror or suspenseful kind of movies, I guess in a way. I didn't realize that that's what Citizen Kane would have been classified under if you looked at just the score, honestly. I wouldn't exactly say it was like suspense horror, but it's it's not exactly, it's not exactly just drama. All right, let's get into a little bit of how unsuccessful I have been in comparison to Orson Welles. Like, holy Santa Claus. Let's just go over this guy's filmography and background just real quick. May 6, 1915, he was born. An American actor, director, writer, and producer who is remembered for his innovative work in radio, theater, and film. Considered, obviously, one of the greatest filmmakers of all times. In his early 20s, Welles directed high-profile stage productions for the Federal Theater Project, which was established during the Great War as a part of the New Deal to fund live artistic performances and entertainment programs in the United States, including an adaptation of Macbeth, an entirely African-American cast, and the political musical... adaptation of Macbeth had an entire African-American cast and political musical theater, The Cradle Will Rock. In 1937, he and John Houseman founded the Mercury Theater, an independent repertory theater company that presented a series of productions on Broadway through 1941, including Caesar 1937, a Broadway adaptation of William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. In 1938, his radio anthology series, The Mercury Theater on the Air, gave Welles the platform to find international fame as the director and narrator of a radio adaptation of H.G. Wells' novel, The War of the Worlds, which caused some listeners to believe that an invasion by extraterrestrial beings was in fact occurring, although reports of panic were mostly false and overstated. They rocketed Orson Welles to notoriety. His first film was Citizen Kane 1941, which is consistently ranked as one of the greatest films ever made, and he co-wrote, produced, directed, and starred in as the main titular character, Charles Foster Kane. Wells received 12 other features, and the most acclaimed, The Magnificent Ambersons in 42, The Lady from Shanghai in 47, Touch of Evil in 58, The Trial in 62, Chimes of Midnight in 65, and F is for Fake in 73. His distinctive directorial style featured layered and non-linear narrative forms, uses of lighting such as chorizo. Am I saying that right? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I might have to look this up real quick. Chiaroscuro? I don't know. It's a type of film techniques and stuff like that. Unusual camera angles, the sound techniques. This guy was doing all sorts of this crazy stuff. He said he borrowed a lot of the sound stuff from the radio, deep focus shots and long takes. He's been praised as the ultimate auteur. This was all in his first 26 years. Citizen Kane was released when he was 26. So I was absolutely floored to hear that this dude basically played an entire life of this character, Charles Foster Kane. He got on all of the makeup multiple times. He's old, he's young, he's old, he's young. This non-linear storytelling that you get with the movie, it's all there. It is absolutely just breathtaking to see that this guy just goes whole hog on how this movie is going to be made. And it looks like the studios gave him every single dime he needed. I mean, I don't feel like we're in the same place for, 10 seconds at all. 10 seconds. Each scene feels like it takes place in a new location. It never feels like we're in the same location very many times at once. Or we're even revisiting the same location. So he's also known for had 3 marriages in his personal life, including one with Rita Hayworth. I think she's an actress and dancer. She was, and yep, he's known for that deep baritone voice. Like, how's it go? I don't even know. He's from Wisconsin, so it probably sounds a little bit different than that. But he's got that deep baritone voice. Did you know that Wells was actually a lifelong magician as well, presenting in troupe variety shows and stuff like that? And yeah, multiple times he's been called greatest, best filmmaker of all time. And I mean, with this being his first movie, it's like, holy shit, no wonder, like, oh my goodness. So I actually did the inflation difference of what it would approximately cost on the budget. Okay, so back in the day, the budget for this movie was $839,000, just about. Today, that would be about $15.6 million. So that would be what the budget would be today if they were to make it. And the box office back then was $1.6 million. Give or take the re-releases. I'm not sure if that, I think that includes it. I don't know. I'm sure it would go through the roof if pandemic wasn't here. But, so 1.6 back then is about $29.7 million today. So that's not too bad. It's like they doubled their money. I think what today they try to get their money back triple the amount these days. So I'm not sure if it would have been as successful with the cash flow if by today's standards. If they're wanting 3 times as much. So yeah, this is starring Orson Welles, Joseph Cotton, Dorothy Comingore. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. Everett Sloan, Ray Collins, George Coulouris, Agnes Moorehead, Paul Stewart, Ruth Warwick, Erskine Sanford, and William Allen. Let's hop into. Hold on, let me just check something. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we had all this, front end information because I mean, this is a jam packed movie. So, yeah, the pros, the cinematography, the uses of miniatures, the use of the camera angles, the sound, it's phenomenal. The reason that this movie sounds so good is because he was a sound guy. He worked in radio. He knew what he was doing with the sound. So it's a little bit more forgiving when things on screen don't look as good, but oh my god, everything on the screen looked like $1,000,000. It looks like they gave him every single piece of materials, whether it came down to the attire they're wearing or to the background foliage, whatever they needed. It really didn't matter. They gave it to him. And he seemed to have a lot of control over this movie. From what I hear, the studios just gave this guy full free reign, which is something that doesn't always happen. Um, yeah. And we already covered the music and the editing. It's just a phenomenal movie from top to bottom when it comes down to it. Okay, so Robert Wise, I don't think I actually talked about the editing. Same guy, Academy Awards, Best Director, Best Picture, West Side Story in 61, Sound of Music in 65, Citizen Kane. Okay, so he was nominated for Best Editing in Citizen Kane. I wonder who actually beat him in that. But yeah, this was phenomenally edited. I think this is one of the best edited films I've seen before 1980 or something like that. It's just crazy to think that they were able to do all this without a computer. I don't even know how it's possible. It's like it physically feels like it's impossible. It's like what it feels like watching this being edited from like what was it, the 40s, so like 80 years ago or something like that. That it's almost me watching this being edited, thinking about it being edited 80 years ago is almost me thinking like, how did they build the pyramids back then? Like it just seems I don't even know how my mind could like fathom something that this big of a level. And like, I don't even know how. My thing is like, how did they like render the film and then check out to make sure that the edit came out correctly without doing the entire I just have so many questions. How did they it's kind of hard for me to get it out. How were they able to look at the film to make sure this is what they wanted? Like, I can barely do that with a computer in front of me, and I got screens. Like, they didn't have screens. In my opinion, they didn't have screens. They were doing it all by hand, I guess. I really don't know. I guess they didn't have screens. Yeah, they definitely didn't have screens. But yeah, so let me hop into a couple of cons. Let me see. The cons are that I don't think everyone's going to understand the movie initially, and it's obviously not for everybody. The reason that you're going to enjoy this movie, for anybody that has gotten this far and is like, oh my God, should I watch it or not? My God, you're 20 minutes in the podcast, I didn't told me. Yes, absolutely watch one of the best movies ever made, and you'll understand why it's one of the best movies ever made, because it seems like a movie that couldn't be made back then. It seems like it's a movie that has the sentiment of today, the pacing of today. It feels very much a today type movie. So yeah, I feel like the major cons of this is it's a little bit it eliminates a little bit of the subsector of if you're not interested in who Charles Foster Kane is, but I feel like they really hammer in why you should care about this guy at the beginning, and mostly with regards of this guy's ability to change the minds of millions of people, and he knew it. And so yeah, the fact that this is extremely relevant today to the president we have today, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like, how was this even made? So let's go into the plot of Citizen Kane, 1941. In a mansion called Xanadu, part of a vast palatial estate in Florida, the elderly Charles Foster Kane is on his deathbed. Holding a snow globe, he utters a word, "Rosebud," and dies. The globe slips from his hand and smashes on the floor. A newsreel obituary tells this life story of Kane, an enormously wealthy newspaper publisher and industrial magnate. Kane's death becomes sensational news around the world, and the newsreel's producer tasks reporter Jerry Thompson with discovering the meaning of Rosebud. It's the hook of the movie. And for anyone that doesn't know what Rosebud is, we're going to obviously start going into spoilers at this point. So let's go on and continue. A couple of the notes I have from right here. I was like, okay, so Rosebud, keep an eye on that. There's a lot of different clues that what it could be. There's a lot of different shots of what it could be. Now, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and spoil the Rosebud, what it is. Because at this point, we're going to start talking about the plot and spoilers from this point. Rosebud is a sled. Now, there is talks that Rosebud was actually the private parts of another guy's wife, I think. I need to go back and see what Rosebud actually might have meant again. And that's what some people have put upon this movie, saying that the Rosebud was some dude's wife's private parts or something like that, and that was the last words he whispered from his lips right before he died. And it's like, I need to go back and see if that's actually got some merit to it. But I was like, oh my goodness. And I wonder who it was again. Okay, so I looked it up. So there's I guess there's possible merit that Rosebud might have been William Randolph Hearst, the guy that Charles Kane is supposed to be the kind of like the proxy as. It's supposed to be the nickname for his girlfriend's clitoris or something like that. It's like, all right, that's next level trolling if that's true, but I'm not exactly sure. I might actually have some clues in my notes. So a couple things I noticed is, my God, everything is just coming super fast. Crystal ball view was super cool with the reflections of seeing him drop it and all this different craziness of the black and white scale of the actual Xanadu Palace or the mansion or whatever you want to call it. It's just phenomenal. Like I said earlier, it never feels like you're in the same place twice. Always constantly moving. And not only are they moving, everyone's talking super fast. I feel like the information coming at you for Citizen Kane at the very beginning is like, you better start taking notes, son. Like, oh my God. So, yeah, let's see. And very impressive use of shadows. The also impressive use of short tracking shots at the beginning for the flashback. I mean, he's standing with people that got makeup looking like Hitler. It's just very convincing that this dude has lived this entire life. There's almost, I think there's two scenes that I knew that Orson Welles was in old man makeup, but other than that, the majority of the movie he's in old man makeup and not his young self. Yeah, I'm just like, how did this guy pull this off under 25? I mean, he was 24, 25 during this. So it's just phenomenal that he was able to play Citizen Kane at all ages, almost unquestionably. And then the fact that he ended up, Orson Welles started to actually look like the character of Citizen Kane. So it's like they got the old man makeup looking good too. And I'm sure because of the resolution, because of the cameras, because of the lighting, all of this different stuff, that I'm sure that it looks a lot better than if it was in super high quality HD. But I have not seen Mank yet. I'm going to kind of do like a comparison a little bit to see if they kind of do something like that too. So, let me see what we got. So they essentially round up the entire movie in the first 10 minutes. The titling is so relevant to today. America still reads Kane's newspapers, and Kane himself was always news. How is Orson Welles able to predict this? The thing is, I would be fascinated to learn the mind of Orson Welles. I really want to learn some more background story about how he knew like the news cycle was going to go 24/7, how he knew the way and the age of these media moguls would go, and people that are kind of growing up in the same footsteps as Kane. Like Citizen Kane has not only become a staple in filmography, but it's become the character Citizen Kane has become a staple in American history as well, because there's so many different types of Citizen Kane like figures that are shown throughout our country's history and up to today. So yeah, with the use of the shadows and everything, them showing the guys in the newspaper room and watching the reel, it's just like, wow, this is very kind of ominous in a way. It's like these guys are not really that important as well when you're following them. They are just like the proxy of kind of getting the audience of understanding of, all right, why should we care? What's the hook? Rosebud is the hook, and they say, the cutaway says, I should say it all. They say, what is Rosebud? And then it cuts to Susan, which is his second wife at the time, Miss Alexander, I believe. Yeah. And so that might lend credence to what Rosebud really meant as well. Thompson sets out to interview Kane's friends and associates. He tries to approach his wife, Susan Alexander Kane, now an alcoholic who runs her own nightclub, but she refuses to talk to him. Thompson goes to the private archive of the late banker Walter Parks Thatcher. Though Thatcher's written memoirs, Thompson learns about the rise and decline of Kane's personal fortune. Let me see what else we got here. Yeah, so the pull-out shot from when we're shown of when the camera is kind of focused on young Kane when he's playing in the snow and just is pulling out to show that his folks are just getting ready to basically sign the papers over. And I counted this. Okay, so get ready for this. The pull-out shot is amazing because it's like it's kind of like a short tracking shot, but Charles is basically just given away. Okay.
Anybody think I hadn't been a good husband? The sum of $50,000 a year is to be paid to you and Mr. Kane as long as you both live, and thereafter to the survivor. Well, let's hope it's all for the best.
It took him all of maybe 20 seconds for them to decide that. I mean, he said $50,000 a year in 1971. Oh my gosh.
Everything else, the principal as well as...
Oh my gosh. I'm still like, I was like, he's like pissed at first. He's like,
I'm asking you for the last time. Anybody think I hadn't been a good husband? The sum of $50,000 a year is to be paid to you and Mr. Kane as long as you both live, and thereafter to the survivor.
$50,000?
Let's hope it's all for the best.
He's like, fuck him, fuck that little shit. Said $50,000. Oh my gosh. Oh, I actually kind of want to see if I can find how much that would cost, or how much the inflation would be. But I mean, that's gotta be like $250,000 a year, something like that. Like, they are going to be freaking set. But I was just, the mother is just like, I've had these bags packed for fucking since last week, damn it. And just the way that she's just kind of ruthless. This actress, actually I believe she's a new actress. Thinking is Agnes, was it Moorehead or something like that? Agnes Moorehead. She's a brand new actress. She's only on the screen for a few moments, but she's intense.
Go on, Mr. Thatcher.
Well, it's almost 5, Mrs. Kane. Don't you think I'd better meet the boy?
I've got his trunk all packed. I've had it packed for a week now.
She didn't even blink.
I've arranged for a tutor to meet us in Chicago.
But yeah, I was just like, ruthless. And this is all in one take right here. This is an amazing shot right here. So it feels a little bit like, okay, so the shot comes from the window it's an all-in-one shot of her saying, oh my gosh. Okay, so I actually got to go back and look at this. Okay, so the shot starts of her opening up the window and saying, Charles, get your ass inside, I swear to God. You know, she's kind of doing that thing. But this is all in one take of her saying that I've had the bags packed all in one. I've had the bags packed. And it continues the shot through this, them telling him.
He comes from the east. Hello, Charlie.
And his dad is condescending as fuck.
Yes, Mommy? Mr. Thatcher's going to take you on a trip with him tonight. You'll be leaving on number 10.
That's the train with all the lights on it.
Is this still the same shot? This is impressive. This is an impressively long shot. My goodness.
Come on, Charlie. You're going to be rich. Your mom figures. Well, that is, me and her decided this ain't the place for you to grow up in.
Yeah, you weren't saying that about like 20 seconds ago. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, it's very impressive. This is all in one take. I didn't even realize this. And so, let me continue. His mother's kind of ruthless, but we kind of find out a little bit more. Packed his bag a week ago. His parents just sell him off. But it also seems that, when Charlie pushes Mr. Thatcher, I think. Okay, so he pushes him down. He starts running away. Dude, his dad tries to swing at him.
Thatcher, what that kid needs is a good thrashing.
That's what you think, is it, Jim?
Yes.
That's why he's going to be brought up where you can't get at him.
And so it seems that he might have been in somewhat of an abusive household, and this is obviously where we see the Rosebud sled. Thank you for listening to the Citizen Kane movie review. For the full movie review, please go to the Patreon, patreon.com/LuckyDog for the full review. Thank you. And to help me out, just expand the podcast, even if you can't join the Patreon, rate 5 stars on iTunes, thumbs up, subscribe, follow on Twitch, follow on YouTube, all the good stuff. It all helps out. I appreciate it. And if there's anything I can do to improve the podcast, let me know. Let me know how I can improve. That always helps me. So thank you for supporting the Lucky Dog Podcast. Take it easy.